thought you might say hello to everybody. Hey everyone, this is Beecher, and we're at Big Cat Rescue with Operations Manager Catherine.
Hello.
Who is handing out some snacks.
And a tickle.
Oh,
Bye.
so, look at this. You're going to love it. Yeah. Or not. And sometimes that's how it goes.
How about snacks? Beach, beach. Beach, beach.
He's not terribly food motivated.
Beach, beach.
In fact, when he came here, he was on a cat food diet.
That took forever to get him on meat.
It did take a long time to get him eating what he should be eating, which is a all-meat diet.
Beach. All right, we might have lost Beach. Just like a cat.
Beecher is a Savannah cat. And it's a really bad thing that people do. They hybridize servals, which you're going to see in a minute, with Hutch, with domestic cats to create a hybrid. And they tell people that the cat will eat cat food, which is unusual. He actually did. And that they'll use a litter box and they'll be a great pet and they'll look very exotic. Usually they're not anywhere near as pretty as he is. He sold for $15,000 because of his beautiful markings. But what people usually get is a very ordinary looking cat who wants to eat raw meat and who pees all over the house, because even though they'll use a litter box, they are marking their territory. That's what they're trained to do in the wild, is to protect as much territory as they can. So that means peeing all over you and your stuff. So, who's next on your list?
We're going to do Hutch.
I bet Hutch won't turn his nose up at food.
Hutch will not turn his nose up. This is an extra treat.
Hutch is a serval, so he's the type of cat people crossbreed to domestic cats. And when you see him, you'll see he's so much bigger than a domestic cat. He would rather eat a domestic cat than breed it. Hutch is kind of new to us. He's only been here for a few months.
He's new to operant too, so
He hasn't
he
learned any
doesn't
manners.
have his manners quite there yet. He's a quick learner, but he doesn't quite have his manners down yet.
So what are you looking for whenever you're doing operant?
So typically what I'm looking for, if I'm not asking him for something specific like going in his lockout or laying down, I'm just looking for him to be calm, to have all
Good luck with that.
all 4 feet on the ground and inside the cage. I'm looking for his head to be inside the cage because a lot of our servals like to stick their heads out of the cage. And so I'm really just looking for really what he's doing right now. He's looking for the food, but he's not reaching out for it. He's being sort of calm. He's excited, which we expect, but he's not displaying any kind of reaching behavior or anything like that.
Why is he so hungry?
Why is he so hungry? He's a little skinny. We've been trying to feed him up, and he's so hyper that he burns food off really quickly. So he actually gets snacks to kind of supplement that as well.
How much breakfast do you have?
He gets a pound and a half for breakfast.
Pound and a half of what?
Oh, he gets, today was, I think, red. So he gets a piece of red meat, which is like steak. And then he gets a big softball of mush, which we affectionately refer to as mush, but it's a ground carnivore diet. And so it's like taking the entire animal and grinding it up. It has cartilage and it has bone and it has organ meat and things like that in it, which is really where they get their nutrition. This muscle meat, like what we eat, it gives them some calories and it gives them energy, but it doesn't really give them a lot of nutrition. They really need that organ meat for the nutrition. If you watched any nature shows, you know that typically when they kill an animal, they're going to eat the whole thing because all the organ meat and the bone and everything is really nutritious for them.
I'm so happy today. I'm actually seeing your comments. I can't tell you how excited I am to actually see your comments. So it's lovely to see all of your likes and your shares and your hearts. I wish Beecher and Hutch could see all these hearts that you guys are giving them.
He's seeing the meat, and so I think he's really excited about that. He says, I will take my hearts and comments in meat.
Wanda, the reason that he can't be released back to the wild is because he was born in a cage in the United States. He's an African serval, they're native to Africa, and if he's born in the U.S., he can't be released in Africa because he's not an African citizen. He was born in the U.S. and he wasn't raised by his mom. It can take their mom 1.5 years to 3 years, sometimes 5 years even. Cubs will stay with their moms to teach them everything they need to know about surviving in the wild. So he was apparently ripped away from his mom very young because he's been held as a pet most of his life. And he came to us from a wildlife rehab center that rehabs native wildlife to go back to the wild, but they can't release him back to the wild because they're in Florida and he is not native to Florida. We have a wildlife rehab and release program here, but it's only for native cats, cats who were born in the wild. Those are the only cats that you can legally release back to the wild. So we do that for bobcats, and we haven't done it for Florida panthers yet, but we would be able and willing to do that. But all of these other cats that are at the sanctuary, the lions and tigers and leopards and servals and caracals, none of those guys can ever go free because people bred them for all kinds of horrible purposes, pets and pay-to-play props and exhibit displays. So sadly, they're stuck in cages. But you guys can actually help us put an end to that. We have a federal bill that would put an end to the private possession of these animals because they don't belong in backyards and basements. And you can take action at bigcatact.com. Yes, so Alyssa's right. He came with Clover and Lucky, who are in our rehab program, and Catherine can probably tell you how those guys are doing.
Oh, they're doing really well. They're learning very quickly. They're already on live prey. They're catching rats and learning their hunting skills and everything.
Who's next on your list?
We're going to do Natalia. And I need to go switch out food for her real quick. Good job, huh?
Another question people always ask about are the cages. So while she's getting the food ready, hi. You can kind of see how their cages work. So if you look back through the back there, they are these long peanut-shaped enclosures. And then if you see the doors, they go through those doors into the next section. And sometimes they even have tunnels, like you'll see Beecher has a tunnel that connects this enclosure with that one, that tall one over there next door, through that tunnel. The smaller cats have cages of about 1,200 square feet, and the big cats have cages of 1,800 to 3,600 square feet. And then they have vacation areas, like right across the street there is a 22,000 square foot enclosure, and every 2 weeks a different cat gets to go on vacation in there. And then we have a 2.5 acre vacation rotation for the lions and tigers, and every 2 weeks a different cat gets to go on that vacation. And Natalia's like, I heard my name.
She's already over here. She's like, did you mention my name? I did mention your name.
There are less than 60 Amur leopards left in the wild, so they're one of the most critically endangered of all of the cats. Oh, they're so hissy.
She's so hissy.
And
She likes
Grabby.
to help. She likes to help. Did you hear from Manny that you get big chunks if you grab the stick? Yeah? Am I teaching a new behavior out here? If you grab the stick, you get giant chunks.
I think all these cats do talk.
I think they do. I think they have meetings and they all chat about it. And so Natalia is new to operant as well, our operant at least. They did a lot of operant conditioning with her at her previous facility, but it's different getting used to how we do things and what we expect from her. And then, of course, what behaviors we want her to have and not want her to have.
One of the differences in the way they did operant is they had a 1-inch mesh between the keeper and the cat, so she couldn't be getting her paws all up here.
They did warn us that she liked to grab hold of keepers and various other things, so.
Oh, that tail is so swishy mad.
I know.
How could you be so mad? You're getting treats.
She's mad because she wants the treat, but she has that foot out, and I really don't want her to have a piece with that foot out.
She also just got a different, oh, that was a good trick to stop that. She just got a blood sickle. Well, it wasn't a blood sickle, it was
a
white.
Tuna sickle, probably.
She got a tuna melt.
A tuna melt.
From, who was it that was
Beth
handed?
Ann.
Beth Ann. How often do they get those blood sickles and tuna sickles?
They usually get them at least a couple times a week. There's a set of cats, typically our older cats, that get a sickle every day because we're trying to give them as much fluid-wise as we can. But then we also have a whole nother list where everybody gets them on a rotating basis. So she probably gets sickles a couple times a week, maybe more often because she is very charming and everybody wants to give her treats. She begs really well. She does. She's super charming.
And beautiful, my goodness.
She is
she's
a
so
gorgeous
fluffy.
girl.
And she's really tiny compared to other leopards. It's hard to tell when she's
It
the
is.
only cat you see in the shot here.
But she is very little but fuzzy and fierce, super fierce.
And loud. Oh my goodness.
She's loud. She has a really loud saw when she saws, which is basically a leopard roar. So they have a noise that is repeating. It sounds like somebody sawing wood. And when she saws, she has this deep voice like she's been smoking for 20 years.
She sounds like a male.
Yeah, versus like Armani, who has kind of a delicate saw when she saws. But Natalia has a super deep saw when she saws.
Some people might wonder why, if she's so endangered in the wild, why we're not breeding them. And the reason is that none of the cats that are bred in captivity can serve any kind of real conservation value because they're never going to be released back to the wild. And so we don't believe that these animals belong in cages and therefore are not going to do anything to increase their numbers of cats in prison.
I know. That's it.
Was
That
your
was all
dog?
your snacks. That was all your snacks.
You're going to have to go back to your tuna melt
To
before
go
it
back
melts.
to your tuna melt.
You might want to show it to her again. If you can do it without losing your stick.
Well, yeah, that might be interesting. Maybe if you
She's
step
so
on it.
focused on the food, I don't know if she's going to see it.
Maybe if you step on it. Oh, you stepped on it and it didn't matter. I don't think you're going to care about it. I don't think you're going to care about it. You're just going to care about trying to get me.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness.